What's poppin', y'all? It looks like we finally get a look into the finances of one of the biggest cap rap flexers in history, and that's none other than Soulja Boy. So just to give you a little bit of context, Soulja Boy has capped about having a $400 million deal with World Poker Fund Holdings, which was in 2016. We found out that was capped. His shares were about 2.5 million, and then that deal somehow fell through. Also, he ended up having to sell his Atlanta home that he purchased for $1.2 million, and that was supposed to be at a loss. He also claimed in 2021 that he was a new co-owner of Atari, that he signed 2 deals with the company and was going to revamp it. And he even said he was going to sell the company for $140 million. But then Atari refuted those claims through an official tweet saying that the CEO was the same and Soulja Boy had no ownership in the company. And then the deal that Soulja Boy was talking about was some Atari token, which was like a crypto attempt. And it wasn't even a part of Atari. So it was just some crypto deal that he did. And then in 2016, same year as the World Poker Fund's holding, he said he bought a penthouse for $6 million. And then the property was listed for not only $3.2 million, but Soulja Boy was just renting it through Airbnb and then saying that he had $100 million through his Soulja game consoles or making millions upon millions of dollars on there. Well, in this lawsuit, which we'll get into the lawsuit and more importantly later, but you guys really care about Soulja Boy's bread. Listen, I know the truth. That's why we're getting into it immediately. So his net worth claims. So Soulja Boy has to get on the stand. He has to swear an oath and he has to tell the truth and nothing but the truth. So help him God. So he's not capping when he gets up there. And people probably think like, yo, he's probably getting paid a lot from his royalty rates from Crank That, but he doesn't even know what his royalty rates for Crank That are. So they start asking before he gets a verdict on how much he's going to owe this chick that's suing him for SA and a couple of different other things. He said that what he's been making money when it comes to his assets, that including his new skincare line, a cologne, he said earned him $50,000, and a marijuana strain that earned him $30,000 to $40,000. He said he got paid $50,000 to perform at the crypto ball for Donald Trump's inauguration, which is a big bag to be paying Soulja Boy. No wonder why he took that. But that just goes to show you that means $50,000 is a lot of money for Soulja Boy to get paid, for him to be willing to do an event like that, knowing that he was going to get backlash. But when it came to Crank That, he said he doesn't even know the details. So in Legal Affairs and Trials, which is Megan Cuniff's blog, website, Substack, she writes some actual court transcripts. And then it says here in correspondence, and this is Soulja Boy Way speaking, DeAndre Way is his full name, or DeAndre Cortez Way. I'm not sure the percentage, but it's an amount. It's a percentage. I'm not sure the exact percentage, Way said. I'd have to look it up. So either he actually knows and he's just saying he doesn't know so he doesn't lie, or he has no idea, which I'm willing to lean towards. It could be either one. So they asked about Way previously saying he said he made 15 to 20 million off of Crank That. And then he said he isn't sure and he couldn't estimate his monthly revenue from the song. And then he also said he can't estimate how much he made from the song She Make It Clap either, nor how much he made in 2024. And then somebody said, I'm pretty sure I hear your music when I go to a baseball game. You make royalties when it's played at the stadiums, is that right? Zambrano asked. Zambrano's one of the attorneys, of course. And then he says, right. Okay, so how much do you make if it's played in a stadium? Do you have any idea? He says, no. And then when it comes from online streaming, Soulja Boy says, probably like $18,000 this year. And then he says, you've only made $18,000 this year? Yeah, because it takes a while for the money to like produce from the streams. And then he said his bank account fluctuates and the trial is taking a lot of my money. As far as lawyer bills and stuff like that, this whole trial has been real costly. So to go back to a couple of points that Soulja Boy made. She Make It Clap, I'm pretty sure Soulja Boy either has a deal with Empire Distribution or some other distributor. So he's not under an actual label deal and hasn't been for a very long time. So he may not know how much he's getting paid off of Crank That. But when it comes to a specific song like She Make It Clap, for instance, it's a lot harder for him to know, especially if he's independent, because he's just getting paid for the streams that are coming from his Spotify, YouTube, Apple Music, and wherever else they're claiming and collecting royalties from. However, the fact that Soulja Boy is saying he's getting paid $18,000 this year only is I'm a bit iffy on that. It means he has a terrible distribution deal. He probably took like a big upfront bag, because when you take a look at Soulja Boy's monthly listeners, and he's got 12.7 monthly listeners, that's a lot of money coming in. That's a lot more than 18,000 even in a month. That's probably 18,000 a week, maybe more. I mean, we've got some artists, if you're an artist and you're on your alt, let people know, like, okay, this is what it actually is, even if it's in proportion. Obviously, you're not going to put out how much money you make, but I can guarantee you that's like 18,000 a week, if not more. But that is including all of Soulja Boy's biggest songs. So if you take a look at the most popular songs by Soulja Boy on that list, you've got Kiss Me Through the Phone, Crank That, Birth of Rap, Turn My Swag On, Pretty Boy Swag, Donk, Crank That, Yeah. All of those are from before he became independent. So he may be getting a very, very minor percentage of that. And She Make It Clap is up there with almost 100 million streams. So that definitely generated him a very, very sweet income. But also on the other side of it is Soulja Boy got signed in 2007. He for sure recouped multiple times. So he's getting a favorable royalties on all of this. And he might, if he's under a distribution deal, he might be getting paid quarterly. I'm not sure. But if you're independent, you're usually getting paid monthly, unless you've got some other sort of deal going on. But then when it comes to social media following, right? Like Soulja Boy posts stuff on his Instagram. We see him shilling stuff. We see him selling stuff. And then he said he once made $17,000 from going live on TikTok, but typically earns only $300 to $400. And then he said he's earned $100,000 on TikTok in the last 2 years. So $50,000 per year, which hell, for you and me, that's not bad at all. But for Soulja Boy, hey, somehow he's always got a stack of cash in his hands, but that might be the only stack of cash that he has. And then this is the funny one. They asked about Soulja Boy saying he'd been offered $140 million for a video game system he designed. And then Way says it didn't go through. Nintendo sent a cease and desist letter, so I had to stop that first venture. He's basically saying there was no deal. And then when asked if he's worth $100 million, Soulja Boy laughed in court. And then he says, "Look, I don't want to get y'all confused here in this courtroom." And then he let everybody know that he doesn't have access to multi-millions. He currently rents a home for $25,000. He owns 5 cars, which, yeah, own your cars, but rent your home. I'm not going into the whole rent or buy debate for a home. But listen, owning 5 cars is a lot. Now, if DeAndre Way or if Soulja Boy here owned 1 car and was renting his home, I wouldn't have anything to say. But owning 5 cars? Sheesh. And he says, like, I work. I'm a worker. I make money from shows and doing concerts and selling merch and working and doing different things like that, which is a bit sad because, for instance, Rick Ross, he's somebody that makes money from shows, makes money from doing concerts and selling merch and endorsements and doing different things like that. But if Rick Ross wanted to chill, he's got enough businesses where if he maybe even scaled down his lifestyle just a little bit, he'd be able to afford everything. And that just goes to show that Soulja Boy clearly didn't invest his money that he was getting into the right things, because he's had nearly 20 years. And of course, he got on at 16. So it's very difficult to do that when you're at 16. But let's just say by 21, right? He had already still been making a lot of money. By 21, it was 2012. By the time he was 21, it was what, 2012 or so? At that time, he was still making a ton of money. But he just didn't decide to invest it properly. Could have got some brick and mortar businesses, some franchises, anything like that, or just saved properly. And then he also says he has 2 kids. One's aged 2, one's aged 1. And then he says that he had to cancel a lot of shows because of this lawsuit, including Coachella, which would have been a bag. That would have covered a lot of my expenses, but that was canceled due to accusations. This entire case, this entire trial, these accusations definitely affect the amount of income that I'm able to generate. And he ended up getting $4 million in damages. And they said it's a fair punishment for his truly reprehensible conduct. And then going back to the conduct that they're accusing Soulja Boy of, the claims were the following. So they said that he had an assistant that they did a really, really good job, because Soulja Boy, we didn't really hear about this case until now. And it says the jury verdict against Soulja Boy addressed 9 claims. Compensatory damages are just about $4 million. Punitive damages are $250,000. So it's for assault and then past harm, battery, gender violence, false imprisonment, not liable, intentional infliction of emotional distress, harassment, hostile work environment, non-payment of wages, and failure to provide wage statements. So the claims made by the woman is that on or around February 2019, Soulja Boy SA'd the plaintiff for the first time. Following the first essay, he expressed remorse and gave her $1,000. So the way that this entire situation started is she was supposed to be a personal assistant for Soulja Boy, and he was supposed to be paying her $500 a week, which Soulja Boy disputes and says he didn't pay her at all and that he let her live at his crib. So this is a weird situation where it starts off, I guess, him trying to hire a personal assistant, but then he picks a chick because she thinks she's fine, and then he doesn't want to pay her, and he kind of tries to turn that situation into a relationship, which is all bizarre. But this lady came with a ton of proof. And then on May 2019, she says that he violently grabbed her cell phone after she said she wanted to quit. So she tried to leave, and then he spit on her, which sounds like something Soulja Boy would do, I'm not gonna lie. And at the time, she believed she was in love with Soulja Boy and was placated to remain in this toxic relationship, who would often state, "I didn't mean it." And in other occasions, she said that when he received comments on her Instagram page, or if her telephone rang, and responded by tackling plaintiff to the floor and kicking her in the ribs. This is the woman, which we're not getting information of who she is. On other occasions, Soulja Boy would punch, kick, and body slam her, and when he would become enraged with the most trivial offenses that were typically associated with his jealousy. On multiple occasions, Soulja Boy threatened her with bodily harm and stated, "I should have killed you," following a violent encounter in April of 2020. And over the course of this relationship, he punched her directly in the head on at least 10 separate occasions. So Soulja Boy was doing some menacing stuff. And there was an ex that Soulja Boy had that talked about the violence that he enacted on her, which oddly enough, Soulja Boy doesn't have this reputation, or the reputation hasn't stuck. But I'm going to play you guys that clip right now of this girl talking about her situation with Soulja Boy.
He was in his bathroom getting his hair cut. And where our bed was, you could look like straight into the bathroom, like right where you are. And then the door was downstairs and the front door, like right there as soon as you get to the bottom of the steps. So I was like, okay, I know this nigga's haircuts take like an hour, if not longer. So I was like, okay. So I'm trying to make sure he can't see me in certain mirrors, like from the bathroom. And I pack my bags, and I try to, like, you know, it's a crazy situation to try and get out of it. But I was like, okay, I'm cool. I'm good. I'm leaving. I can't do it. So I just sat there. I was watching. He hadn't moved, didn't get up for nothing for a minute. So I was like, okay. So I got up, got my bag, and I walked down the stairs. And I was like halfway down the stairs, and I felt him press it against the back of my head. And I just sat down. I sat on the steps, and I sat on the steps for about probably a couple hours. I just stayed there. And he was sitting behind me, and I didn't say.
With the gun?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I don't know. I don't remember people. I feel like he had just finished his haircut right at the moment I wanted to leave, of course. But yeah, he sat there. And he had friends there that was sitting there, and I would just watch him, and nobody ever said anything.
So this was an ex-girlfriend, and then this girl, the ex-girlfriend, is different from this scenario. And then it also said later on in the documents, it says he would punch, kick, and body slam her, and then he said, "I should have killed you," of course, and then she lost consciousness once, and then she ended up in a locked bedroom. So yeah, it's not looking too good for Soulja Boy. But then she claims that she was trying to leave the situation and get her stuff, and Soulja Boy decided to take the box again. So she said that he locked her in the room for 3 days with no hot water until she was coerced into not leaving him. And then sometimes twice in the same day, she said that Soulja Boy would inappropriately touch her body, pull the pants off, take the box, and that he attacked her in August so hard that she thought she was going to die. And then she regained consciousness outside and then ran away. And then she tried to get back her stuff in that October, but he refused to give them to her and instead used the opportunity to, what she's saying, essay her again. And then in December, she was violently attacked again after trying to retrieve her belongings once more. Now, the timeline of this is very odd. I'm not saying she's not a victim, but what it seems like the scenario is one of those scenarios where like somebody breaks up and then someone's holding the other person's stuff, usually the guy, and they're using that as like, "Oh, come get your stuff," and then hoping to reconcile. And she may have reconciled one of those times, because if it happens after the first time, she might just say, hey, I'm not even trying to get my stuff back anymore. Because in September or October, when she tried to retrieve her belongings and then he took the box, or he essayed, then she could have just got the belongings then and left, or just said like, screw this, like this happened this time, there's no way it's not going to happen again. So several months later, for her to come back and her stuff still to be there, it seems like this on again, off again relationship, or relationship in quotations, obviously, if we are to believe what's here. Because keep in mind, this is a civil case. This is not a criminal case. Soulja Boy has not been criminally prosecuted for any of this or any prior cases, because there is a prior case too where he owes another judgment. But nevertheless, this is very heinous. And this lady has showed like different text messages, images, even correspondence with Soulja Boy's team. For instance, she showed text messages and photos that documented her beatings, and in August 2020, she sent those to his manager. And then she told she said, and she testified that she told the guy on the phone that Soulja Boy was hitting her, and he said, "That is insane. I'm so sorry this happened to you." But he denied in testimony that she told him that he had assaulted her. So there's two conflicting things here, two conflicting statements. Now I will say, it says it shows bruises, but they don't establish that Mr. Way caused the bruises. And the photos are undated, which on an iPhone, they usually date the photos. And the woman said they were taken in July, and at this time she was seeing another rapper, Smoke Perp, which doesn't look too great, right? Like she was with Soulja Boy, and then she was with Smoke Perp. Like I'm guessing she was just like running around with D-list rappers, because this is in 2020. And by then, Smoke Perp was finished. And then she also said she worked for Lil Twist for 8 years and said that he paid her $200 a week. And for rapper Molly Mall, and testified that he gave her free room and board, but money only occasionally. So this is a very odd situation. So it doesn't seem like she's been a professional for very long. And by professional, I mean an actual personal assistant. Because an actual personal assistant doesn't have these like ranging figures of like, oh yeah, like I took room and board here. No, I was just in a relationship with Soulja Boy. I didn't get paid by him, even though he said he would pay me $500. I took $200 from this person a week, and I was dating Smoke Perp. So it's a very odd situation, but listen, we're not here to make any claims other than Soulja Boy is a lot broker than he wants us to believe. He's always got some ice on, and he's always got a blunt. Soulja Boy's down bad if he stops lighting a blunt on live stream. That's when we know it's gotten really, really bad. Because, man, I honestly think we'd see him homeless on the street corner, still lighting up the blunt. Like, I think he would still find money for weed somehow, some way. But he clearly can't afford this. And in response to the verdict that was said, he replied to Megan Cuniff on video. And this part is just hilarious.
About the verdict.
Today, I stand before you deeply disappointed in the verdict delivered in my case. I firmly believe that the decision made in court was not based on facts or substantial evidence, but rather on factors that were outside of my control. The truth was overshadowed by the involvement of individuals such as the jury who were not present during the events in question. And I feel that the system allowed external influences to shape the outcome. Furthermore, the use of Jane Doe as the identity of the accusers raises serious concerns about fairness. Keeping these individuals anonymous while I'm forced to face public scrutiny creates an unequal playing field. I believe this entire process has been tainted by a system that is not designed to protect the rights of the accused. I want to make it clear that I'm innocent. This case was never about justice. It was about money and personal gain. And I will not let that stand. I am committed to filing an appeal and fighting for the truth to be revealed. I will continue to stand by my decision and believe that I did not commit the crimes I'm accused of. Thank you to everyone who has supported me during this time. I promise that I will fight until the end to clear my name and expose the truth. Thank you.
I'm so sorry. Would you mind repeating the first 3 sentences? I apologize.
Today, I stand before you.
So you can clearly say, he's saying he's innocent and reading off the script, but they didn't have to do him like that in the second part. They said, hey, can you say the first part again? Soulja Boy is a completely different person. But then after this, Soulja Boy hops on IG and we get the real Soulja Boy. Soulja Boy took off the suit and said, screw this. And I'm going to play you guys the clip right now.
Why you going to ask for some money? Go tell the police to come lock me up. If I touched your ass, bitch, lying ass, bitch. Ain't nobody touched your funky ass. On my mama, y'all can't see what these folks trying to do then. Y'all want to believe what these folks saying? Y'all want to promote this shit? Come on, nigga, come lock me up, nigga. The fuck? Where the charges at? Come on. Who the fuck want money for being sexually assaulted? Who the fuck wants some money for that? Go lock the nigga up. That's how you know this shit scam, nigga. The system is broken, nigga. My mama and shit set up for black niggas to fail.
So clearly here, Soulja Boy has a point. We can't argue it. And a lot of people are saying like, hey man, he's in a situation to where he's never been criminally prosecuted for this. Although there has previously been a case, which I'll give you guys some details on right now. Because back in 2023, an LA judge found Soulja Boy's net worth to be negative during a legal battle over $472,000 judgment that he owned to a different chick. And then he said he had minimal liquid assets and many liabilities, including $1 million tax lien. And the judge suggested he downsize his lifestyle, such as moving out of his $25,000 a month rental home. And this was in 2023, before he had to pay this judgment now and get these lawyer fees that he just got. And guess what? he did not do that, because even in this trial, he said that he was still paying $25,000 a month in rent. And this is a struggle, man. Like, paying that much in rent, he does not need to be paying that much in rent, even if he's got 2 kids. But Soulja Boy is in a predicament now where we're probably going to be seeing a lot from him on social media, because he's got to figure out how to get this money somehow. Obviously, it's difficult to get the money and to get the money out of Soulja Boy, but this is a situation where Soulja Boy doesn't really have many assets. And I'm guessing Soulja Boy doesn't have, other than the vehicles. So we might see a situation where they might repo those vehicles, put them up for sale, like the IRS did to 6ix9ine, except this isn't the IRS. Sell those, and then use some of that money to pay off whoever the victims are, or whoever was awarded these judgments. But we got to stay tuned. I just don't want to hear that Soulja Boy's talking about he's rich. Like, you are not rich. And if he starts talking publicly about how he is rich and he's got all this money, then they're going to come after him and be like, yo, you're capping. Were you capping in court, or are you capping online? And he's going to have to say he's capping online. So at least Soulja Boy can no longer cap to our faces and tell us he's rich and we're broke. But he still got the ice on in that video. So, hey, I don't know how much that's worth. Might be cubic zirconium. Who knows? That's probably what he's telling the court. But let me know what you guys think in the comments. Like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell if you enjoyed. And I'm going to see you on the next one. Follow me on Twitter and Instagram. Go to helloyassine.com. Thank you for watching. Peace.